people. It's about something bigger and larger than the people involved. It's about constitutional principles that really we shouldn't give up on. I think we should all judge as inadequate the president's response when he says he hasn't killed Americans in America yet. He doesn't intend to, but that he might. I don't think that that is a response that we should tolerate. And so, as we move forward in this debate, we need to understand and we need to fight for something that is classically American. Something that we're proud of and something that our soldiers fight for. And that is our rights, our individual rights, our right to be seen as an American, to be tried in a court by our peers. And I think if we were to give up on that, it's a huge mistake. One of the things we have to ask is, what kind of standard will there be? If there's going to be a program in America, what kind of standard? If we're going to kill Americans in America, what kind of standard will there be? If the standard is to be sympathy, you can imagine the craziness of this. Mr. President, I would, at this time, yield for a question without yielding the floor to my colleague from Kansas.
Mr. President.
Senator from Kansas.
Mr. President, thank you. Through the chair, through the President, I'd like to ask the Senator from Kentucky a couple of questions. I've been listening to the conversation, to the debate, to the discussion here on the Senate floor throughout the afternoon, and I would ask the Senator from Kentucky these questions. Is it not true that the Constitution of the United States is a document designed to protect the freedoms and liberties of Americans? Often the Constitution, I believe, I would ask again the Senator from Kentucky, is the document, while sometimes perceived to be a grant of authority, is not really the main purpose of the United States Constitution to make sure that the American people enjoy certain liberties and freedoms that the founding fathers who wrote that document believed were important for American citizens. And whether or not that's true, I'll let the gentleman from Kentucky tell me, but if that is the case, if it is constitutional to intentionally kill an American citizen in the United States without due process of law, then what is not constitutional under the United States Constitution? If the conclusion is reached, as the administration at least is unwilling to say is not the case, if the conclusion is reached that it is within the powers of the Constitution for the executive to allow for the killing of an American citizen in the United States, then what is left in our Constitution that would prohibit other behavior? If you can go this far, what liberties remain for Americans?
Question, because ultimately the question is who gets to decide? Does the president get to decide unilaterally that he's going to do this? And how would you challenge it? If you're dead, you have a tough time challenging basically his authority to do this. But no, I can't imagine any way that you can usurp and go beyond the constitutional requirements in the United States. I see no way he can do that, and I can't imagine that he would even assert such a thing. But it still boggles the mind that he won't explicitly say that he will not do this.
Well, I would give request of the President to ask a question of the Senator from Kentucky. Again, in the absence of the assurance or the statement from the administration, from the President of the United States or his Attorney General, the appropriate venue, the Senator from Kentucky, is not the appropriate venue for us to insist upon that answer. Is it not appropriate for this to be the venue on which we as the United States Senate make clear that it is unconstitutional in our view for the death of United States Senator, United States citizen in the United States by military action. This is the opportune moment because of the pending confirmation of the nomination of the head of the Central Intelligence Agency. And so while today's order of business really is an administrative appointment, is this issue not so important that we need to utilize this moment, this time in the United States Senate, to make certain that that question is answered in a way that makes clear not only for today and for the current occupant of the CIA and its administration, but for all future Americans, all future CIAs, all future military leaders, that it is clear that in the United States, American citizens cannot be killed without due process of law.
Mr. President, I think it's a good point. I think it's also a point to be made that would be also one resolution to this impasse, would be to have a resolution come forward from this Senate saying exactly that our understanding is, and this has been something that Senator Cruz and I have discussed, is that whether or not we should limit the president's power by legislation or by resolution, basically saying that repelling an imminent threat is something the president can do, but killing non-combatants is not something that's allowed under the Constitution. And I think the courts would rule that way, should the courts ever have to rule on this, but it'd be much simpler and more healthy for the country if the president would simply come out publicly and say that.
Finally, I would ask the senator from Kentucky, while this opportunity to discuss this issue on the Senate floor has occurred today, it certainly is an opportunity for the American people to understand a significant basic constitutional right may be at stake. And while the senator from Kentucky has led this discussion, I would ask him, has he now received, as a result of bringing this attention to this issue, any additional reassurances from the Attorney General or the President of the United States that the administration agrees